welcome back to yoga. Today I have a class focused on hips and hip opening for you. I've also had some feedback that I'm not really loud enough in these videos, and so I'm going to work on that in post-production and see if I can boost the sound or look into getting myself a microphone. The other thing is, just as a reminder, donations are appreciated but not required for these videos. And if you would like to donate, the links are available in the description of the video, which should be right below the video in your YouTube player. So today, if you have a yoga block or 2 yoga blocks, grab those. And then we're also going to use, again, a bath towel. And the first thing we're going to do, which is going to seem a little crazy, is you're going to put on your socks if you're on a hardwood floor. If you're on a carpet, you may not need socks. We're going to keep the bath towel close by, and we're going to move the yoga mat out of the way. So we're going to get a little unconventional and non-traditional to start in warming up the hips. This particular move comes from my yoga teacher, Jean Mazet. Set your bath towel aside because we don't need that yet either. And then go ahead and lie down on your back. And ideally, you have lots of floor space on either side of you. So our warm-up move, we're going to get the arms out of the way and overhead. And then here with the legs, I'm going to extend one leg straight, reach it out to the side. When I can't reach it out to the side anymore, bend the knee and bring the knee up towards the chest. And then we do it on the other side where you extend the leg long, take the leg out to the side along the floor, and when you can't go any further, bend the knees, though you're going to bring it up towards the armpit. And this is going to go quickly, so that's why I suggest socks if you're on that hardwood floor, so that you can slide through this movement and just let it flow, so that you're kind of kicking or swinging the legs. And this is when you're going to find out, right, if you have enough floor space to do this. If you don't really have enough space available to clear, then just do one leg at a time, and then you'll turn around so you can do the other leg, right? So you can just clear space on one side of you, work with one leg for a couple of rounds, and then you'll switch and get the other leg into that space you've created. So nice and easy, not trying to force anything, just loosening up the muscles that hold the hips in place, working through kind of a multi-planar movement. So we're not moving just side to side or just forward and back. We're kind of moving through all of that here. So good warm up for the hips. Take a breath, finish it up. And then let's come up and grab that blanket. And this one might work better. It just kind of depends what your body likes, what you like. So my towel is about this size. So I have it folded in half once and then folded in half again. Again, we can do this without the yoga mat. I'm going to back up nice and close to the wall so you can see me. So I'm starting with one knee in the center of the towel. Could be a blanket. And the other knee just on the ground. And then I'm going to lie down on the belly. Place your forehead onto your hands. And then bend your knee. This is very similar movement. Bend your knee like you're going to touch your elbow. Press the leg out to the side towards straight. And sweep it back down to its starting position. So this one isn't quite as fast as the first one. Bend the knee. Reach the leg long. Swing it back to starting position. And your hips will move, and your pelvis and trunk won't necessarily face the floor the whole time. You might be opening up to the side a little bit here as you go through this. Let's do one more. And then let's stay on this side, but reverse the movement. So keep that blanket or towel under your knee so that your knee slides nice and easy. Take the leg out to the side, bend the knee, and push the leg straight down. And a couple of those. Same idea here, push down, out, bend the knee, push down. So if you're practicing with someone, you might have to take turns with this kind of movement since it does require so much floor space. And I know that all of us are working out at home right now and not in a big gym space where we have a lot of room for this. Let's call it good on this leg, and then switch legs. only have room on one side here. On the other side I have the wall, so you got to turn around. Bend the knee up towards your armpit. Take the leg out long and slide it back down. And keep going with that. Your movement may look different than mine. That is okay, of course. Listen to your body. Keep it pain-free. And if you have had any hip surgeries in the past, then stay mindful of what you were told in that healing protocol for your hips. So if there are certain movements that are not good for your hips because you've had some kind of hip surgery or hip injury, then that is far more important than what anyone else is telling you in a video, right? So you always want to consult with the experts or with your written materials if you're not sure about moving your hip in this particular way or in any way in general. So then let's reverse it. Go out to the side, bend the knee, bring it down. Out to the side, bend the knee, bring it down. So most importantly here is that you're staying in a pain-free range. Whether you've had a hip surgery or not, just working in a way that does not create more discomfort or more pain in your body. Yoga should always be lessening this, or at least not making it worse, right? Maybe it just stays the same, and that would be okay too, but not making anything worse. Hopefully your hips are starting to feel pretty freaking open in this movement. Mine are. They're feeling kind of loose and warmed up, ready to go for the rest of the practice. So I'm going to call it good there. You can set your blanket or your bath mat aside. And now get your mat again, your yoga mat. You can take your socks off. You had your socks on for that. And we're going to start in tabletop on your hands and knees for our more traditional yoga part of the practice. And let's have that block nearby too. So tabletop, inhale here, exhale child's pose. So let's get used to moving with the breath. Inhale back to tabletop, and out downward dog. Tuck the toes, lift the knees, press the hips up and back. Let's take that movement about 2 or 3 more times. Exhale to child's pose. Inhale, tabletop. Exhale, downward dog. Keep it going. Find your smooth and steady breath. Traditionally breathing through the nose. Ujjayi breathing, which means inhale and exhale through the nose with a slight constriction through the back of the throat so that as you breathe, you're making a whispering sound. Next time you're in downward dog, let's go ahead and stay there. Take any movement that feels good in your downward dog. Pedal it out, whatever you need. And then on your inhale, extend the right leg back long behind you. Exhale, pull the right foot forward into a lunge. Roll your shoulders back, look forward, and hold this shape for 5 deep breaths. And as you exhale, you can engage Mula Bandha here. Mula Bandha is engagement of the pelvic floor muscles. So at the very bottom of your exhales, you let the breath out of the body. You can feel a gentle squeeze of the pelvic floor muscles as though you're lifting them in and up. If you're not quite sure what that feels like, then you can just mentally picture those muscles, whatever that looks like for you, whatever your symbol or interpretation of your pelvic floor is. Imagine that it's pulling in and up, contracting slightly at the bottom of your exhale to engage what's called Mula Bandha, which helps to keep energy or prana in the body so it's not leaking out. Let's move into the physical practice again, focusing here on the poses. Plant your left palm down. Inhale, reach the right arm up towards the ceiling so that you're in a twisted lunge. Now we're going to come right back out of this. Set the right hand down inside your right foot. Pivot the back heel down. And then reach the left arm up so you're in side angle. And this is a place where you can use your block. You might want your block there next to your foot so you can come up a little bit higher and not feel so compressed or jammed up in this bottom side of the rib cage and thigh. So we're going to rotate through that a couple of times, where you pivot off the back heel, land the left hand down, maybe it comes onto that block, and then right arm comes back up. As soon as you get there, reverse, release, right hand down, back heel down, left arm opens. So we're getting rotation into this front hip as well as through the spine as we flow back and forth through these poses with the ujjayi breathing. Inhale, exhale through the nose. Slight constriction through the back of the throat so that the breath kind of sounds like Darth Vader, for lack of any other way to put it. Let's go one more time here, rotating. And then drop the right hand down, keep the left hand down, move your block out of the way, and let's take a vinyasa. Inhale to plank. Exhale, reverse push-up down to the mat. Inhale, cobra or up dog to lift through the chest and take a back bend. And then exhale, downward dog. And stay there for about 3 breaths. Again, you might add your Mula Bandha practice here, where at the bottom of the exhale, you sense a slight contraction, slight engagement of the pelvic floor muscles. Inhale, lift the left leg up, second side. Exhale, step the left foot through. Hold here in your lunge for 5 breaths. Push into your back heel. Every exhale, awareness at the pelvic floor. Mula Bandha to contract and hold prana or energy in the body. So my understanding is that Mula Bandha is pretty similar to what's called the Kegel exercise, but maybe more subtle or slightly less contraction or engagement than a Kegel. If you need to know how to do a Kegel, next time you're in the bathroom, try to stop yourself mid-flow, and those are the muscles that you engage in a Kegel or in Mula Bandha. Now, it's not ideal to be practicing it that way all of the time, where you're stopping yourself mid-going to the bathroom, but once or twice to get the feel of it is okay. Moving on from there, plant the right palm, reach the left arm up, here in a twisted lunge, and then right away we're going to come down, plant the left hand inside the left foot, use your block there if that's helpful, turn the back heel down, and then open through the top arm. Then flow back and forth through these 2 poses on your own, and just keep a steady breath pattern as you move. Okay, next time you come into the lunge and the right hand comes down, pause there, move your block, step back to plank pose and take it through your flow. Exhale, hug the elbows close as you lower down. Inhale, cobra or up dog. Exhale, back to downward dog. And 3 deep breaths here with the option of adding Mula Bandha at the bottom of your exhale. At the bottom of your 3rd exhale, look forward, step or hop to the top of your mat, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold back down. Inhale all the way up to standing, and then exhale the arms down. Release the arms by your sides, close your eyes, and take a few deep breaths here. Are you noticing any more awareness through the hips or the pelvic bowl? Are you feeling any awareness of energy in this part of the body? maybe some tingling, maybe some warmth, maybe just an increase of sensation in the region of the pelvis and the hips. Okay, from here, place your hands on your hips and we'll work with some balance poses. Shift your weight into your left foot and draw the right leg into your tree pose. Now, tree pose can be with the foot below the knee or above the knee joint, but try not to push the foot into the knee, which is not such a happy thing to do for your knee joint. It doesn't want to move that way. Then, hands can start on the hips or go to the heart, and sense that your pelvis is level. So these bony parts of your hips that you can touch up front here, the ASIS, we want them in a straight line across the body. So if you're letting one side sag or tilt, we're not working as evenly as we could. So rather than hanging out and letting the right or the left hip jut to the side, try to push this left leg back into the right foot so that you're staying nice and tall, lifting the ribs up and out of your waist. If you'd like more, extend the arms overhead. We'll be here for another breath or two. We're going to continue to balance as we move out of tree pose. Place your left hand on your left hip. Reach your right hand down and either take hold of your knee, holding the leg out in front of you, or if you'd like to go further, take your first two fingers around your big toe and then try extending that leg straight, and maybe the knee will straighten and maybe it won't. You'll have to see where you're at. We're going to take one more balance pose from here. Do the best you can to keep connection with that foot. As you bend your knee, take your arm to the outside of the leg, swivel the knee back behind you, and then into dancer pose. You don't have to pivot, I'm just showing you where we're at. Wrap the foot, or wrap the hand around to the big toe side of the foot, and then kick the foot back into the hand, extend the left arm forward. Last few breaths here in your dancer, Natharanjasana. And then let it go. Come back up to standing on both feet. Nice work. You had no idea we were going to do that much balancing, huh? But you did great. Hands on your hips. Shift into your right foot this time and take the left leg to your tree shape. Below the knee is fine. Above the knee is fine. Stay off the side of the knee, and then try to feel into your hips. So you can let your hips jut out to the right and see what that feels like, and then pull that hip back underneath you so that both legs feel like they're working evenly to press into the center of your body. Hands can go to heart or extend overhead. Take a couple of breaths here. Then again, right hand goes to the hip as we transition into Hasta Padangusthasana. So you can either take your hand to your knee, or again, you can grab hold of your big toe with your first two fingers and reach that leg out any amount towards straight. Maybe it straightens, maybe it doesn't. And then you know where we're going next, into dancer, where you bend that knee inside the arm. See if you can keep a connection of the foot as you take that knee back in space. From here, roll the hand around to the pinky toe side of the foot, push the foot back, lean forward through the chest, and then the right arm can come out like an antenna to help you balance. Last breath here, then slowly release onto both feet. Bend the knees, wiggle it out, shake it out. Nice job, everyone. Come back to standing at the top of the mat if you moved from there. Place your hands at your heart, close your eyes, and take a full inhale and exhale. Then inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, fold forward. chaturanga, cobra or up dog. So in up dog, remember the thighs come off the mat because you're hugging inner thighs together and using your core. And then back to downward dog. From here, lower to tabletop. We're going to do a little bit of hip strengthening, which is just as important as stretching. So come down to your side. And you can prop your head up here on your hand, or you can lower your head down on your arm. But what is most important here is trying to find a straight line down from your shoulders through your hips, and then from your hips, your ankles are about in that same line with your hips. Knees are bent a little bit out in front. They don't have to be hugged up towards the chest, but they are bent and they are forward of where your hips and torso are. Then we do some clamshells, which is a pretty classic exercise for your glute med and the other muscles that work as abductors and external rotators in your hip. I'm losing my voice. Okay, so lift that top knee up and down, and it doesn't have to be a huge range because we want the front of the pelvis on both sides to stay forward towards the side of your mat, which means we're not opening where we roll the whole hip back, right? This is not what we want to be doing, is this much movement. Rather, we really want to isolate the movement into the specific muscle group, into the bum, into the side of the hip, and so the movement doesn't really have to be that big for that. If you're thinking like, gosh, this is so easy, well then wait, just keep going. Or here are some options without adding weight, without adding other external props that you would need to pay for. Here are other ways to make this more challenging. Put your head down and now hollow out through the side of your abdomen and try to lift that side of the abdomen off the floor so that you're using your abdominal muscles, your core muscles, at the same time as you're working this outer thigh. And then you can also bring the top arm up to add a little bit more balance. I'm starting to burn out here. I hope you're feeling it too, that you're getting some work done there. So let's do 2 more. And then relax. Nice work. And you can give yourself a little, some of this to kind of work that muscle out. Now we're going to work the opposite muscle group, which means we're going to work the other leg to begin with before we switch sides. So I'd like you to straighten your bottom leg and bend the top knee and put the foot down in front of that bottom leg. So again, you're looking for a mostly straight line through your head, your torso, and that bottom leg. If you need, that bottom foot can come forward maybe 5 or 10 degrees forward from that straight line, okay? And again, you can keep the head down or you can come here. And now we're just gonna lift and lower that bottom leg without rotating or turning from the hip. So what this means is you kind of look down at the toes of this leg that you're working, and you want the toes facing the same direction towards the side of your mat or towards the side of the room the whole time. We're not letting the toes face up towards the ceiling here. Okay, so that was my example of what not to do. If you can see, my foot rotated there and my hips had to go back in space to make it happen. So straight line through the body, bottom leg comes up and down. Even if it's a super, super small range of motion, that's still really valuable to get those muscles working. If you're down here, again, you can lift through the side of the belly so that you're working a little bit more core at the same time. And then the top arm can go up for your final variation. This one is burning out a little bit faster for me. I don't know about you. So you'll notice I'm not really counting how many we're doing because I'm just not. Because you want to kind of work to fatigue. When you feel like you can't do the movement properly anymore, when you're going to lose your form, that's probably the right number for you. So let's do 2 more here. Unless you're already done, that's fine. And then rest. And let's switch it over to the other side. So you can just roll over to face the other way. I like to face the camera and not give you my back. So I'm going to turn straight line from the head, through the torso, through the hips, your ankles or your feet are in that same line. We're going to start with the clamshell where you lift and lower that top knee, keeping the feet connected. You can be up here with the head propped if that feels a little more comfortable. You can put this bottom hand on the floor, or sorry, your top hand down on the floor to help you stabilize a little bit better. If you want variations just like the first side, you start to lift up off the side of the belly here so you have a little bit of a rainbow dome shape, and then that top arm can lift if you want even more. This side might burn out a little quicker because even though it seemed like it wasn't doing much on the other side, it was. And then we were also working that opposite muscle group, the inner thigh. So even if you don't do the same number on each side, that's okay because your body is naturally asymmetrical. It's just the nature of being human that we move kind of asymmetrically. We're not the same one side of the body to the other. And that starts from day one because our internal organs are not symmetrical inside the body. So already we kind of have that difference from side to side. All right, last one. Straighten your bottom leg. Bend your top knee, put that foot in front. Take any variation through the upper body. I'm going to have to put this hand down. And then start to lift and lower that top leg. And try to notice that your toes are not rotating. Because if your toes rotate up towards the ceiling, it probably means that you're rotating from the hip joint, which is not what we're looking to do here. We're really trying to use the muscles of the inner thigh rather than allowing the muscles that rotate the hip to kind of take over. Couple more here. This side, a lot harder for me for whatever reason. My asymmetry wants this side to be harder. Last two. And then rest and relax. Good job, everyone. Okay, that kind of tired me out. Let's come into a child's pose for a moment. Take a couple deep breaths there. Okay, and then let's move up into downward dog. So I have a couple more things for us to do in this little hip exercise. Inhale the right leg up towards the ceiling. Exhale, step forward to warrior two. Pivot the back heel down. Open up to the long edge of your mat. We're not going to stay here very long. Straighten your front leg. No, I lied. Bend your front knee. We're going to come over into half moon pose, so another balanced position. You might want your block close by. You can set that block in front of your right foot, but more towards the pinky toe side of that foot. Walk your back foot in a little bit closer. Reach the right hand onto that block. Tip your weight into the right leg, and then lift the left leg up, still open towards the side of the mat, side of the room, and then top arm can come up. So here's half moon, and we're going to rotate through it just like we did in our lunge earlier. So lower the left hand down, and as you do, turn the hips to face the floor. You can put your block underneath that hand, which might be a good reason why you would have two blocks. Lower the left hip even more. Reach up and open and twist the torso to the right. And we're going to just flow through that. The right hand comes down. Open the left hip on top of the right. Reach the left arm. And then reverse. Coming through with standing splits here, where your left toes face the ground. And then you can internally rotate the left leg. So they're turning, left toes turning towards the right as you reach up through the right arm. Right hand comes down, toes face the ground on that lifted leg. Turn the left toes out to the left. Woo! And left arm up. And let's try that 2 more times. Working more through that standing leg, your stabilizing leg is probably the one that's going to start feeling pretty fatigued here. Okay, last time, opening up through the right. Then you'll let the right hand come back down. Both hands on the ground. Reach back long through that left leg. Drop the left heel. And now what we all think of as hips, when we talk about it in yoga, pigeon pose. Walk your right foot across to the left side of your mat to drop the shin down. Back leg stays long. Slowly fold it over. Drop the head and rest. Breathe deeply here, and you can come back to your practice of Mula Bandha if you were into that practice of engaging the pelvic floor at the bottom of your exhale. When it's a Kegel exercise, we do it to help strengthen the pelvic floor muscles. When we talk about the same action as Mula Bandha in our yoga practice, it's more about movement of energy, of prana, life force through the body. So the movement, the action of Mula Bandha can be much more subtle than a Kegel. Mula Bandha can be more of a mental or spiritual practice than a physical practice. The physical practice is to contract the pelvic floor muscles, but for some of us that's a little hard to access, in which case you can just picture or imagine your awareness, energy at the pelvic floor, and whatever you might think a pelvic floor contraction looks like, you can picture that in your mind, or you can create some sort of symbolism, right, that works for you to picture that. A lot of words for yoga, so come back to the breath. And then we'll slowly come up out of pigeon pose. We have a second side to do. You can take it through a vinyasa or take it directly back into downward dog. Okay, let's try the second side. Inhale the left leg up and forward to warrior two. So your left knee stays bent. Pivot the back heel down, open the arms. If you're using a block, set that in front of your left foot, maybe 4 or 5 inches, towards the pinky toe side of your foot. And then step your back foot forward. Lean over to connect your left hand to the block or the floor. And then tip the weight over to half moon. Hips are open to the side of the mat. Right arm is lifted. And then we're moving through this into standing splits. And then open up, left hand to the ceiling in a revolved triangle. Lower the hand, right toes face the ground. Right toes open towards the side of the mat as you lift the right arm to half moon. Back to standing splits, right toes face the ground. And then we're taking a variation here of revolved half moon, where we internally rotate the right leg and let the right toes turn to the left as you lift through the left. And then keep going. Slow, steady inhale, slow, steady exhale. Whenever you need to breathe, breathe. Don't worry about which breath goes with which pose right now. Just keep steady, inhale, exhale. If this is really challenging, you might try bending your bottom knee a little bit as you move. That might make things easier, or it can make things harder, depending on what's going on with you. And you can always go back to doing this like we did with both feet on the ground earlier in the practice, where it was a twisted lunge to a side angle. All right, I'm going to call it good there. So whenever you've had enough, step the right leg back, lower the right knee, and then pigeon pose. That left foot walks across to the right side of the mat to lower the shin. If you're feeling really up high here in the hip, you can use your block underneath there, or maybe a rolled up bath towel, and then fold it down. Awareness can go to the pelvic floor for Mula Bandha. Walk your hands back up. Take one more vinyasa if you'd like it. If you're gonna skip it like me, then you might just lower your left hip to the ground, slide the right leg forward, and then when you're ready to meet us, if you took that vinyasa, block stays close, lower down onto your back to set up for bridge pose. Arms down by your sides, knees are bent, feet flat on the floor. I think I'm in frame, good. And then inhale, lift the hips up towards the ceiling and breathe here for 5 breaths. If you'd like to take it deeper, clasp your hands together behind your back and then actively roll your shoulder blades closer together on your back, one at a time, to create more lift through your chest. Push down into your feet to create big lift through the hips, and maybe your chest will come up to meet your chin. Take one more inhale, and then exhale and roll it down. Pause for a moment at the bottom. You can let your knees drop in and together. And then we'll use the yoga block to come up for a second round, but this will be why can't I think of the name of it? Restorative bridge. Feet flat on the ground, knees are separated. Lift your hips up. This time place your block underneath the back of the pelvis, the back of the sacrum. Have your block either at the low height or the medium height, but stay away from the tallest height just for a moment so that we can get a good stretch into the hip crease in the front of the thigh. So gently, slowly hug your right knee into your chest and then extend the left leg towards straight. And that left heel may or may not touch the floor. The more you draw this right knee into the chest, the more that left foot may have to come off the floor. But I can usually find a space where gravity is really creating a big stretch and opening through the front of this hip into the hip flexor muscles, which tend to get a little tighter from sitting. Not that you've been doing a lot of sitting recently, right? I know I have. But yeah, hopefully this one is a good stretch for you. Even if it doesn't feel super intense, it's still a good position to be kind of counteracting or counterbalancing all the sitting that we are likely doing collectively as a country, as a community these days. When you're ready, go ahead and switch the legs to the other side. So here's my suggestion is that you first bend your left knee and put the left foot down, then put the right foot down. I find that's easiest so that I don't mess up my back doing this. And then left leg hugs in, hands around the shin, right leg goes straight. And then you can play with how much you're hugging this knee into the chest. Keep that right foot heavy so that gravity starts to pull the foot down and stretch out through that hip crease. If you're bending your right knee a lot, it's probably not getting into that stretch in quite the same way. So try to keep that right leg more straight. The side feels tighter for me. Okay, and then lastly, bend the right knee, put it on the ground, the right foot, put the left foot on the ground. If the lower back feels okay about all of this, you can try straightening both legs at the same time. And as you do, hug your inner thighs together. Keep a little action through the inner thighs, through the pelvic floor muscles, through the abdomen, so that you're not just letting this movement go into your lower back, but that you're really trying to find it through the front of the hips. And I am finding that I might have to go up a block height to really get this one. Yeah, that's a little better, although I still feel it more in my spine than in my hips. So different poses will work differently in different bodies. I try to offer you some ideas or suggestions for different ways to do things so that it works best for you. Now let's come off that block. You need to bend your knees first to come back into your feet. Lift the hips off the block, move it out of the way, slide the hips back down. hug your knees into your chest for a moment and rock side to side. We've got, I think, one more pose to finish, and then we'll do a meditation. So go ahead and lower your feet back onto the mat, feet about hip distance apart. Arms can go out in a T or overhead to get them out of the way. And then drop both knees over to the left. So your feet started as wide as your mat, and your feet stayed that wide as you let your knees drop down towards the floor. So for me, this is a big stretch in that right hip, right outer thigh, maybe a little bit into the right side of my back. If you want to deepen this stretch, place your left foot, the pinky toe side of your left foot, on top of your right thigh, and that'll give you a bit more stretch. If you're still feeling like I'm not really getting much here, then scoot your right foot back more to the right. Scoot your right knee back more to the right so that you have more of a straight line from your hip to your knee rather than a diagonal line if the knee was more over on the left side. And that should also create a more intense stretch for you. Lower the left foot, take the knees back up to center, feet as wide as your mat, and then lower the knees over to the second side, over to the right. So now the stretch moves into the left leg. And once you evaluate the stretch on this side, if you want more, place the pinky toe side of your right foot up on that left thigh. That'll probably be enough for most of us. If you're pretty bendy in this direction, then again, you scoot your left foot back over towards the left, and that will change the angle of hip flexion, which may change how you're feeling the stretch through that left thigh and left back, wherever you're feeling it. Okay, let's release the right foot, draw the knees back to center. One more time, hug your knees into your chest, rock side to side. And then you can decide here if you'd like to finish in Shavasana, lying flat on your back, arms and legs long. Or if you'd like to roll over to your side and come up to a seated posture to finish with seated meditation. Neither one is wrong. It's just about finding the position that your body feels most comfortable in to be still and steady and to focus in on the meditation and breathing part of the practice here now that the physical practice has finished. So find a comfortable seat and close your eyes. And move your attention to your breath and notice the natural rhythm of inhale and exhale. Drop that attention of breath down into the pelvic bowl, right to the base of your spine. And here we have Muladhara. Muladhara is your root chakra. So we had Mula Bandha, which was the action of engaging the pelvic floor. And then Muladhara is the circle or spiral of energy that is said to exist here in the pelvic bowl. So when you engage Mula Bandha, you stimulate Muladhara, the energy of the pelvic bowl. So as your first chakra, your root chakra, Muladhara is said to hold the energy of stability, to hold the energy of security. So these are our base needs: having enough to eat, having a place to sleep, being a human being. What are the essentials for that? This is the energy of Muladhara that Muladhara is concerned with and helps you focus on. So the Muladhara chakra is represented by the color red, and the Bija mantra, or the seed sound, of Lam. It's actually spelled L-A-M, but it's pronounced L-U-M, Lam. So hold your attention in the pelvic bowl, seeing there a red light. Take a deep inhale, And as you exhale, repeat to yourself that seed sound of lum, 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 lum. Hold attention in the pelvic bowl, seeing a red light there. Inhale. And again, as you exhale, repeating to yourself mentally, lum, 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 lum. And then continue that practice. We'll do it for a couple more rounds of breath. Red in the pelvic bowl, representing your root chakra. And the sound lum, repeated to yourself as you exhale breath out. Please, on your next inhale, draw your hands together in front of your heart. Anjali Mudra, the symbol of gratitude. Thank you, everyone, for joining me in practice today. Namaste.